Surviving in the ice sheet is no simple task, and it's even harder when you start naked with absolutely no items on you. I hope you enjoy my attempt to try to survive the ice sheet. For this challenge I am also using every DLC currently available. My character has good melee, construction and mining skill. Those three are the most important for surviving the first days on the ice sheet. His ideology makes it so that he can cannibalize people without having mood debuffs, and RimWorld will make sure that he doesn't go insane in the first days. The first thing on my to-do list was to find shelter, so I ordered him to start mining some iron so I could build a simple construction around the steam geyser, which would allow me to trap the heat and not freeze to death. Nearby the steel vein was a geyser. I made a bigger construction than I initially needed to survive, but I was planning for the future. When building constructions like this, you don't have to fill in the corners, so I was trying to save any material that I could. This entire operation was very time sensitive, because Ono already started suffering from hypothermia, so I needed to make sure that I had the exact amount of steel before I started building. A big problem is that the hypothermia is already affecting his manipulation skill, so there's a chance he'll fuck up construction, which wastes resources and time. And as luck would have it, he ended up botching the last wall that needed to be built, so he had to go mine another square. I figured if he's already mining, he could mine a second square, which we could later turn into a knife or a horseshoe pin. While he was bringing back the steel, I had to think of my next plan. Do I prioritize making a weapon and hunt, or do I make a horseshoe pin to prevent going insane? As you can see, I opted for making the knife. Very important when making a construction like this is to keep the door open. If you close the door, the steam geyser will heat the room up to insane temperatures, which will cause your character to die. Food might be one of the biggest issues of this challenge. The ice sheet is only populated by snow hares currently, and after a couple of days they will wander off when they realize there's absolutely no food here. So I had to make the most out of my situation and try to get as many as possible. Now there's always a risk that they fight back and injure me, and if that leads to an infection it could kill me. I was able to make quick work of the first rabbit with only a minor injury, but still, an infection is deadly at this point. But if I wanted to survive, I had to get as many as possible before they ran off, because there will be days where there's no animals at all. Unfortunately, I also didn't have much time. The cold temperatures meant that I had to return to my house very soon. Luckily, the second one also goes down without much of a fuzz, but these injuries are starting to get annoying. They don't only create a risk of dying, but they also affect my mood. And going insane is a very easy way to die here. I was only able to bring back the one rabbit for now. My character was feeling very tired and was starting to get very cold, so he received some much needed rest. While looking at his needs, you can see that food and recreation are the two things that he's really missing right now, so I went back to get the other rabbit as well. One snow hare provides enough meat for about one meal, and barely any skin. I would need 60 to make a tribal wear, or I'd need 40 to make a bedroll. This challenge is very dependent on luck. I have to hope that there will be enough food for me to eat for the coming days while I get some basics set up. Now I don't have any way to get wood except trading or making an outpost in the tundra close by. So I started by trying to make a steel hoopstone ring and a simple table and chair, which might increase my mood enough for me to prevent going insane. I luckily still had enough steel left to make the hoopstone ring, because the recreation being deprived gave me a -10, which was insanely bad. So, as soon as it's built, he started playing. The white dots on the map indicate living creatures, and luckily some of them were starting to get close to my base and hadn't wandered off yet. So I tried to make the most of my day and get all 3 of them. We got extremely lucky on the first hare. It died in 1 hit, which is why it's very important to have a high melee stat. After a worrying couple misses, the same thing happened to the second hare, an insta-kill. But while I was on the way to get the third hare, a cold snap happened. Now this makes the temperature drop tremendously for a couple days, and with my character already freezing to death, this might make it a lot more complicated. So after butchering the first rabbit, I took a while to warm up, and then I went to go grab the other one, so I at least would have some food in stockpile. And while he was going over to grab the other hare, I figured he might as well mine a little bit more, because right now he has nothing to do. This might help me for future building projects. Now another big problem with this cold snap is that animals will do everything to avoid this place. There's absolutely no animal which will happily be here when it's this cold. and the current food I have might only last me for 1 or 2 meals. But I had to be very careful that I didn't overwork him. Working in the darkness, cold, while naked is absolutely detrimental for your mood, and as you can see, he almost suffered a major break. So when he finally returns with minor hypothermia, he enjoys some nice dinner before going to sleep, and having survived the second day on the ice sheet. So when he finally awoke, I decided to give him some nice furniture. Because if you know anything about RimWorld, eating without a table is about the worst thing that you can do to anyone. Temperatures were getting dangerously cold, even inside, so I opted to close the door in the hope that less heat would escape. There wasn't too much left for me to do at this point except wait for more food to show up, so I decided to haul more steel in the meantime. Now with these even colder temperatures, it's vital that I give my character enough time to warm up after being outside. Frostbite can trigger very quickly, and an injury can infect very easily. With nothing left to do, he decided to clean up a little around his house. I saw no harm in this, so I just let him do whatever he wanted. But this was a pivotal moment. He just ate the last food and he was still hungry. At this point I realized we might have a serious issue concerning food. Now, a small benefit from ideology is that you can make these columns in the style of your ideology. This gives a +2 mood bonus to anyone from that ideology who's close by. And checking the wildlife tab shows that there's absolutely no animals currently on our map. At this point I had no real idea of what I should do. I was just waiting on an event that would either bring me a human body or an animal. But seeing as nothing was happening, I had to come up with something myself. I realized that when settling, I wasn't too far away from the tundra, which is also a cold biome, but it might have some berries or an animal. Traveling is extremely dangerous. I have no clothes to keep me warm, and I have no food, so there's a huge possibility I freeze to death or I starve on the way there. But with my options being dying right here, or at least trying to get some food elsewhere, I took the risk and I ventured out. Arriving here allowed me to create a second settlement, but I would only use this to forage. This also gave me a unique opportunity to gather wood. There was a good amount of wildlife here, so I went after the rabbits. Now this tundra might be a little warmer than the ice sheet I was on, but it's also cold, meaning I'm slowly freezing, which meant I had to quickly gather food. I almost ate the rabbit raw, but then realized it gave a -12 mood bonus, so I figured I might as well butcher it and also keep the skin. After butchering and having eaten a bit, I decided to go after the nearby snow hare. This would at least give me enough food to make it back safely, and then I would hope that at least at the ice sheet back some food would also be arriving. I had been getting very lucky with injuries. Somehow I'd avoided getting any infections or many wounds from fighting all these rabbits. Despite not having much time and only having a 0 in plant skill, I decided I had to make the most out of this opportunity and gather wood. I could not make a butcher table without having wood, and there's a lot of items in the game that require it too. And while I was away, a raider showed up to my home. At this point I realized I had to get back as soon as possible, not only to protect my house, but because this is a potential corpse I could eat. So unfortunately I also did not have the opportunity to stock up on food, so I was starving and had minor hypothermia while I was traveling back. This was getting very dangerous. While I was still traveling, the raider started his attack. He had free reign to my base and just started beating up everything and putting it on fire. This was very bad, because it meant when I came back, I would have no shelter that could help my hypothermia. When I finally arrived back home, I was starved and frozen. I had serious hypothermia. It would not take long before I would go down on the ground and just freeze to death. I had to get warm soon. But with all my walls being down, I had to rebuild them while having extremely low manipulation. I was very lucky that at least the raider left me alone, because in my current state I would not have won a fight against her. So I had to quickly rebuild the walls that I lost. Thank God my base was not made out of wood, or there would be nothing left. I was able to gather 44 wood on my expedition, and now I had to painstakingly repair my base and try to heat up. And if all this wasn't bad enough, the risk of a major break was getting closer and closer. But somehow I was able to finally finish the construction, and I took a well-deserved nap. Now on day 5 is where I'll leave this episode. I'm starved, cold, and I'm still naked. But at least I had survived for this long. A continuation will soon follow. I hope you enjoyed this first 5 days.